I've been with the Dynamics engineering team for well over 18 years. Started with the beginning of AX4 and been all around most of the product. Most recently been more in the manufacturing area, and then since the fall I got the privilege to become the leader of our product management team here, or what used to be the program management team, but Microsoft likes to change things, so now we are called product managers. But anyway, that's an anecdote. I put my email and my LinkedIn on here. I will also put them in the chat at the end, so that if anyone wants to sync up, then that's fine. So what I have for you today is a walkthrough of what we are delivering here in the April wave. I know many of you probably have read the release notes and you have looked at what we are shipping, and but you may not have seen everything, and some things have not shipped yet. So I have previews of some of the things that are shipping in the later updates in this release wave, and then towards the end I'll try to outline sort of what are the areas that we are investing in the future. I cannot give you sort of specific. Well, I might be able to give you a couple of sort of previews of things that I know we will be doing for the October release wave, but I will give you some directional insights into where we are going, and I think that would be good for you to learn about that. So that's basically what I have in store, and just we've been looking at. So recently, there's a lot of things that have come together here at Microsoft. We've assembled a lot of things that we had in flight around supply chain management. And I think the evolution that has also happened over the last year or two is that we've sort of grown up in the sense that we have come from the core ERP space, and we started to move towards managing the broader supply chain, looking at what can we do to help customers with tiered supply chains, how can we provide insights across vendors, customers, how can we help optimize processes, how can we help address some of the resilience issues that the companies have seen over the last couple of years. And not the least, as some of you may have seen, we have invested quite heavily in sustainability recently. So actually, some of my colleagues here in the Copenhagen office actually was part of the team that built the first pieces of the cloud for sustainability. So we are really trying to address also the needs that customers have to measure their carbon footprint, their resource usage. And I think with the recent events, knowing how much energy you consume, how many resources in general you consume becomes super important. So we are really going in that direction. So we've tried to redraw the picture of how we kind of talk about supply chain. So we have our core supply chain product, where we go from design through planning, procurement, manufacturing, through delivery, sales, and warehouse and so forth, and also to the whole maintenance area. And the light blue boxes or kind of represents where we believe we are strong. We also have some gray boxes, especially product lifecycle management, manufacturing execution, and transportation management, where we recently have invested in partnerships, trying to play well with PLM vendors like Siemens and Windchill. We have recently released a manufacturing execution system interface that is somewhat more robust than our data entities for that kind of workload. And we have started to partner with various MES system providers to provide integrations that can help manufacturers or get some more automation in place. And likewise with transportation management, we're also partnering with various third parties to try to provide some better experiences and more capabilities in that area. I also have some horizontal things. We're looking at pricing, costing, and I'll come to some of that later on. Then you probably also seen the announcement around intelligent order management is something that we are investing quite heavily in, managing and orchestrating the whole order flow from customer through to delivery. We recently have made some acquisitions in the process mining space. We call that Process Insights, and we're really looking for or excited about how we can start to instrument and mine what people do, not just how they use the system, but also what actions they perform, and then help customers become more efficient and discover not only system bottlenecks, but process bottlenecks and so on, and do something about it. We're also working on Supply Chain Insights, which is our offering for providing visibility across the entire supply chain and more. So the picture is pretty broad here, but just to give you an idea of how we see the world, and that has evolved a little bit since previous talks about our capabilities. So let's look at what we are doing in this wave that is running up until summer. We are investing in a couple of areas, not all over the place, but in some areas. We've done a little bit in the product lifecycle management area around, based on some feedback we got from customers. One of the big areas of investment is planning. We kind of group inventory visibility in that bucket as well. And we've also done a little bit to optimize some of the existing planning capabilities in Dynamics. But otherwise, our big investment has been in the planning optimization service and adding capabilities there. I've listed some of them. I'll get into more details as we move forward. And the big thing that we've been working on, we released the first part of it in the October wave, and we are now getting we're close to actually have a full preview, is demand-driven material requirement planning, really something that we see more and more customers use, and we are expecting to get the official certification from the Demand-Driven Institute sometime later this summer. So we're really excited about that. In the manufacturing area, I should say in the procurement, we've done a number of performance improvements and little things here and there. So it's not like we've had a major investment in that area in this release wave, but there has been some continuous improvements going on, but nothing that I really found worth calling out at this level. In manufacturing, we've continued the work on our production floor execution interface, the new shop floor interface, and I think I feel we've come pretty far ahead with that, and it should, once we get the 10.027 release out, I think we are at a point where it's usable for most of our manufacturing customers. So we're pretty excited about that, and I'll show you how that looks in a little bit. In warehouse management, we've done a couple of things. We've been looking at how to improve the packing station. We've been completing the GS1 barcode scanning. We've been also improving our material handling automation integration, or MHACs as some are calling it. And we are continuously working to acquire more partners and to integrate with more automation providers, because this is an area where the industry is just crying for labor, and everyone are constrained by shortages of warehouse workers. So So we see a phenomenal increase in demand for automation in the warehouse space. So we're trying to address that. We've also done some work on the load planning workbench. We've carved out dedicated forms for inbound and outbound loads with significant optimizations. And then we've done some improvements to the hazardous material reporting. On the more sort of horizontal level, we have finally reached the point where we could make the global inventory accounting generally available. I'll touch on that later also. And we've done some work on landed costs to enable integration with third parties. I'll not sort of spend much time on that. And then we have a feature that some of you may have seen because we had a LinkedIn post that actually went viral about that. But our old colleague MFP, Michael Frog up on top of it, and figured out how we could enable custom X++ scripts to be loaded and run on a production system without at runtime, so that we could actually enable customers to fix data inconsistencies without writing direct SQL and so on, so making it a little more safe. So I'll actually spend some time on that at the end as a little bit of bonus. It's not a functional enhancement as such, but it's I think it's worth calling out, especially in this crowd, as I could hear from earlier today that you have been looking at a lot of development topics. So I think you'll be excited about this one as well. So let me just walk you through some of the features. I'll not cover everything, but some of the things that have some UI that it's interesting to look at. And I do apologize for not looking into the camera because that's how my two screens are arranged. I need to look at it a little bit different here. So the first thing I would like to call out is actually an improvement that came as a result of customer feedback. We had this problem that product attributes values were not generated until you opened the form. So what the team did was they actually generated or created a batch job that allow you to pre-populate product attribute values up front, which helps a lot in certain scenarios. And similar, we also have seen that customers that have a lot of churn on product attributes would see a lot of attribute value records that got orphaned when attributes got deleted from categories. So we also created a cleanup script for that. So that is something that it's not a sort of a big feature, but it's something that should hopefully help some of you and make your maintenance somewhat easier. The next thing, if we could go, I talked about global inventory accounting. For a while, we've had this problem with some customers that they really need to account for their inventory in multiple ways and in multiple currencies, and especially companies that operate as multinational companies that operate in many countries. So they may need to have for statutory reporting in the country where they operate, they may need to use one costing method and one currency, but for managerial reporting, they may need to do the costing, the cost accounting in the company currency, and they may need to actually, for reporting purposes, use US GAAP principles if they are US based, which conflicts with how they do it in the countries that they operate. So especially for larger companies, we see that they may not even need to have dual accounting. They may need to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different ways of doing inventory accounting, combinations of the costing method or costing convention and the currency. So what we built is we built a microservice that attaches to Dynamics 365 SCM, and it's basically fed with the business documents that we are generating, and then you can create multiple ledgers with different currencies and different calendars and different costing conventions and so on. And then every time an event happens in Dynamics, that event is sent to the microservice and it's accounted in all ledgers. So, and then we have reporting sitting on top there so that you can actually do your reporting to the government where you operate, to the company books and whatever. Really, really powerful. And the other benefit here is that since this is happening all in a microservice, there's actually no incremental load on supply chain by doing this. So really, really powerful thing here that we are expecting a lot from, especially from larger customers. I also touched on inventory visibility. We developed this service a year ago, so to handle the need for really highly scalable real-time on-hand queries. We saw some customers that were having a really, really large set of consuming apps that needed on-hand information. Think a customer with a mobile app where people can look up inventory on hand. And so we built this service that sits as a front end currently to Dynamics 365 and provides that on-hand information. It has evolved since then with some reservation capabilities, and in this release, we are adding the ability to do inventory allocation for different purposes or different parties or different channels. So, and that can be done in a hierarchical structure if you have a large set of organizations or what have you that you need to reserve or allocate inventory for. We can do that as a time bound, so you can have an allocation that is has a start and an end date. We can then restrict once you start to create reservation and consume inventory. We can make sure that you only consume what has been allocated to you. And we also have the concept of a shared fallback pool so that if you run out of your dedicated pool, you can actually consume from that shared pool. So something that is really, really helpful in especially in the retail commerce segment. We've also provided some available to promise capabilities for customers that use the inventory visibility add-in as their primary source of on-hand information. It doesn't do ATP on a full scale, but it does on a 7-day rolling window. But you can also ask for on hand on a specific day, and it will then recalculate it based on that date. So that's also an advancement again for those customers that need this highly scalable on-hand information. And last but not least, we have finally, if you will, enabled the inventory visibility service to handle warehouse-enabled items. There was some additional work we needed to do in order to make it work well with the warehouse reservation logic, but that's all done now. So this is most of this was released in the April release, and some of it is coming out here in May with a service update. So it's just about there. So some really interesting improvements also to the inventory visibility add-in. Next thing is planning. We have had a lot of feedback on our planning optimization or planned orders form, and it is, due to the way it's constructed, it's a really, really heavy form to work with. But what we also found was that most customers were actually just using it for viewing results and firming planned orders. That was kind of the overwhelming use we could see from telemetry. So what we've done is we created this planned orders simplified form that actually just is optimized just for those two purposes: view master plan planning results and firming planned orders. And it's fast, very fast. So I think this is a good addition. I hope it will address some of the issues that some customers have had. And again, you can drill through to the full form from this one. And so it's not that we've taken anything away, but we just try to be a little bit creative and try to address some of the challenges that some of you are seeing. So I hope this is a good addition. I also mentioned that we've invested quite heavily in planning optimization, and we do continue to do that. We've done some improvements. I've called them operational improvements. I think the most asked for capability from our customers has been the ability to generate action messages, or as we call them, optimization suggestions. That is coming in now. We've also enabled filtered runs and the ability to use space calendars. That was something that we didn't have support for in the beginning. We've also enabled capable to promise. Not exactly the way it's done in the classic MRP engine, but it does give us capable to promise now. And we're working on some of the improvements to the manufacturing capabilities, mainly finite capacity scheduling and shelf life, and also subcontracting support. We will have more to come. We're not done. We know that. We continue to invest in planning optimization, and we have a pretty aggressive roadmap ahead of us to continue to expand our functional footprint so that we can get more customers to take advantage of all the benefits of planning optimization. And we are seeing some really, really encouraging results for the customers that are running planning optimization. So that's also goodness. I also mentioned demand-driven MRP. Demand-driven material requirement planning is all about inventory buffers, if you will. We did implement in the previous wave what we call priority-based planning, which basically allow you to assign priorities to demand, and then as the planning engine runs, it would allocate the supply to demand based on priority. That's part of what the broader DDMRP. What the things that we are adding is ability to more intelligently allocate buffers throughout the supply chain so that we avoid the bullwhip effect, and also to provide some insights into what's going on. So we work with the Demand-Driven Institute to make sure that what we deliver matches the requirements and the needs of customers that do run DDMRP. And we actually see more and more customers do that because it's really it's really a well-positioned principle for supply constrained planning problems. So it really helps address some of the supply chain disruptions that we've seen recently. So we're pretty excited about that, and we really look forward to see the adoption and the feedback from customers once we get this out. And I should give credit to the Demand-Driven Institute for stealing some of their diagrams. I hope they don't shoot me for this. Anyway, so this is a big thing. We're not quite done yet. It will come out in June-ish or so. You'll see this. But we are working very, very hard to get there. So that was planning. If we switch to manufacturing, we've been working hard to enhance the production flow execution interface. We did have support for batch orders, but not for core byproducts. So we've added that. So we have full support for all the different types of batch orders you can generate. We've also made it possible to adjust materials. So we have this button now that will invoke another screen where you can actually see your picking list, and you can make adjustments to the materials that you consume. And we've enabled the registration of batch and serial numbers also for the material that you consume. Since we've added process manufacturing support, naturally we also had to do something about catch weight, so we've done that. So as you would see here, we've added catch weight fields, and we also enabled you to actually register it once you report feedback. And it also includes, it works, of course, also with batch and serial numbers. And you can report progress both on the finished goods and co- byproducts, including catch weight. So that is, I think, it coming out in 10.26, or maybe it's 10.27. Sorry for not being accurate there, but everything that you see here will be available in 10.27. That's the last release that the team here has finished up. We have also, based on feedback, we've actually also looked at the search experience. It was not possible to search for jobs based on item ID and project ID, and especially project manufacturers. We've seen that the most common scenario there is to actually organize jobs based on project ID. So we enable search on that, and we've added it to the grid here so that you can actually see project IDs also in your in the list of jobs. And also based on feedback, we have actually introduced parameters that allow you to auto open the start dialog and the report progress dialog when you complete a search, depending on job states. So again, trying to reduce the number of clicks for the shop floor workers. So something that we are really feel really good about. We also actually managed to add support for the pilot assistant. Some will know this from the old job card terminal, but basically enable a team of people to work on a job and have all registrations be done by the one person, which we call the pilot. So we have that now. So we have the ability to register an assistant, and then you can actually add what's the assistant that should be added to that job. And you can also go the other way and start with the assistant and then attach yourself to a job. So very good as well. And then we actually also heard feedback that the logbook was missing, giving workers the ability to actually review their own registration. So we also managed to enable that. It's now called My Day, and it would open a dialogue where you can very easily see what registrations you have seen, you're made, and you can actually also look at, go back in time and look at other dates, like here, where basically back tap the number of days. So with this, I think we are at a point where the new production flow execution interface is pretty complete for most of our manufacturing customers. And as some of you may have seen, we also have a documented extension story and customization story for it. So I won't say that we are done with it, because we still have a lot of ideas for how it could be improved. But I feel we are at a good place now where it's pretty usable for most customers. So I'll now switch to the deliver side, which is basically our warehouse management mainly. We have done some work here. I call it flexible packing and shipment, but the problem was really that if you were using the packing station and you had you did a partial packing, so you need to pack 10 items, you only packed 2 or 3, took them to the load, and then the load had to go. You didn't really have a way to sort of break that load and create and have the rest of the packing work be done on a different load. So we actually enable that, leveraging the parameter we already had to allow load split during ship confirm. And when you said that, what we did was we introduced a new type of work called packing work. And with that, we are able to track the work in progress that's happening at the packing table. And as you can see here, we have 2 packing works, one closed, one open for the same load. And we also have, if we go to the work line details of the open packing work, we can actually see the remaining quantity of what needs to be packed from that load. And this split of work happens when you do your ship confirm from the load, and there you actually have now the option to split the quantity into a new load, and that would generate this new packing work with the remaining quantity, so that whoever's at the packing station can actually continue to pack and the order against a new work. And it's basic, from a technical perspective, what really happens is that the load is picked to the packing work instead of the picking work for the sales order. And that gives us this flexibility to actually break the load, and also when using the packing station. So hopefully something that would be a benefit for customers using packing stations, especially I'm thinking especially e-commerce would have a good use of this. The next thing in the next investment is something that has been going on for some releases, but we are now finally done with it. It's a GS1 barcode scanning, where we can set up for each mobile menu item what fields should be mapped to a GS1 barcode, and through that and through the setup of the different parts of the barcode, we can actually now scan multiple fields in one go. And as you can see over at the right, where we have the screenshot from the mobile device, we cheated a little bit and inserted the GS1 scanning result with all the codes. But basically the idea is you scan the GS1 code, it contains data for multiple fields, and through the application identifier and the mapping between the fields in the mobile device form, that's the window you see in the middle, where we map from controls to GS1 application identifiers. And then we can actually make that connection back to the system and get the values into the right field. So something that we've had a lot of demand for, and we are really, really happy to see this being completed. The next thing in the warehousing area, which is also something that has been on a pain point for quite a while. It's been the load planning workbench. We've been looking at it from all dimensions to see what could we do to optimize it, to optimize performance, to optimize usability. And basically someone got that bright idea to say, hey, why don't we make dedicated load planning workbenches for inbound and outbound loads? And so we did. So now we have 2 new load planning workbenches, one for inbound, one for outbound, and they are now heavily optimized for that particular work, and we are seeing dramatic improvements in performance. So I really encourage you to look at this and start using it, because it will really make your day a lot easier and faster. So really a good thing. It's a small feature, but I think big impact on the everyday work of users. You will also know that we've had some hazardous materials functionality for some time. We've got some feedback that it was not adequate. So we've done some enhancements to the master data, so there's more information that you can actually associate with the products through the master data. We have added information to various reports, the carriers of merchandise by road report, the verified gross margin or gross mass document, and we've also added some additional reports with additional details. If you don't deal with hazardous materials, this is probably not of high interest to you, but just wanted to highlight that there's some enhancements here had been made in response to customer input. So the last thing I want to talk about before we get to the outlook for the coming release is this custom X++ script execution feature that I talked about. And this is a feature that was developed because we saw quite a lot of customers request and partners requesting us to run direct SQL script to fix various issues in the database. Not that it was, you can say, data corruption all over the place, but sometimes customers got into situations where something was not consistent, needs to be fixed, we could not be done through the UI, whatever. And two things here. First, direct SQL is direct SQL. There are no safeguards when doing that. So even though we review all the scripts and so forth, there's always a risk applying direct SQL to the database. Second, from a customer perspective, the time it took to get the script written, submitted, going through, reviewed by us, executed, and so forth, actually meant that there was quite a long time from a problem was discovered to the fix could be implemented. So what we've been looking at here is how could we enable you to write a small X++ class, run it, and fix the data through X++ instead. First of all, it's much safer because we would run through all the validations of X++. Second, it's somewhat easier to write X++ than direct SQL, at least for most normal people. I know there are some with a twisted brain that are super at SQL, but I like X++ more than I like direct SQL. And sorry if I offended someone, that was not intentional. But could we change that from direct SQL to X++? And we actually succeeded in that. So basically what we now have is you can now create a deployable package that needs to fulfill certain requirements. And then you can actually go to the custom scripts function and you can upload that as that deployable package to the system. And it will be virus scanned and all other things. And once you do that, and the package is loaded, then we've implemented a small workflow that makes sure that no single person can actually upload and execute code without someone else looking at it. So it needs to be approved and needs to be approved by someone other than the person uploading it. And I should mention that you need to be have administrator rights to do this. Second step is once you have your script approved, we have also implemented a test feature that basically executes your code inside a transaction, and then at the end of the script rolls back that entire transaction. The benefit here being that we can actually capture what the script does as part of that. So this is an ability for you to actually test that the script touches the tables that it's supposed to touch, and you can see here from the screenshot that we actually also capture the resulting SQL that is being executed in the background here. Now, once you have tested your script and you actually confirm that the script is validated by pressing the test validated button for the ribbon, then you can actually proceed to run the script, and that would then apply the changes to the system. We do quite a lot of tracing in the background. We run trace parser and other things in the background to capture as much information as we can about what is going on. And this we would save in this script record, so you have it available to see what is going on. Plus, we actually also log some telemetry on what has happened so that we know that you have executed the script and made updates to the system. There are certain tables that cannot be touched through this, so there's some logic built in that you cannot circumvent that makes sure that you can't update anything, so you can't sort of breach security by this. But it can, in most cases, you'll be able to solve whatever problems that you have. So quite a powerful feature, and I hope it's something that we would see would help you get out of situations where there is something that needs to get fixed. Right now, it's sitting behind a flight, so if you want to try this out, you need to log a support ticket and we'll enable it for you. But I believe within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll be, or probably by the end of April, we'll enable it for everyone. So, but we just wanted to have a phased rollout in case there was something that was not right. But pretty excited about this, and I know it's nothing about the functional scope, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I put a link to the documentation, and I will also paste into the chat after this a link to a LinkedIn post that my colleague Michael Furgo did with a video that actually demonstrates the use of this. So quite excited about that. So with that, I think we are in a good time. Let's switch gear a little bit and let me give you a sneak peek, preview into what we're thinking about for the rest of this year and beyond. Some of the things that we're looking at, and I can also share with you some elements of what we are thinking here. So it looks something like this. As I started out, we have broadening our view, so we are looking at how we can create a more, as we say, composable and collaborative set of applications that can address the needs of the wider supply chain. We want to try to unify data. We want to give you as much data as possible so that we can leverage both our analytics and our AI ML capabilities to reason about what's going on. So what you will see over the coming period is that we will look at how can we use elements of the current supply chain product with other systems, creating more interfaces. Some would think about this as breaking up the application. Don't think of it as a physical breakup, but more of a logical breakup. And we've kind of started that with, for instance, our third-party MES integration interface for manufacturing, allowing us to play nicely with third-party manufacturing execution systems. Kind of similar with our automation interface for warehousing, where we can communicate with other warehousing solutions but we would like, for instance, for warehousing to see, could we actually use warehousing in scenarios where customers may use another ERP for finance, for instance. I don't know. But trying to look at what can we do, and especially for, we're talking about warehousing. I'm jumping a little bit here, but if we talk about warehousing, we have invested in our intelligent order management solution, for instance. How can we make the interface between intelligent order management, not necessarily going to the full ERP, but maybe just using the warehouse management subsystem as a fulfillment engine in an order management environment. Some of the thoughts that we have, but otherwise we are really looking at how can we help customer become more agile, more resilient. So taking it from the top, we do experience that we have that we are not supporting our customers well enough when it comes to creating more diverse sourcing networks, having more diverse set of suppliers. So one specific thing we're looking at is implementing some planning policies and planning optimization that allow us to split supply for a given item among multiple suppliers. That is something that is desperately needed by some of our customers. So that is one thing that is high on our agenda to address. We're also looking at specifically for sourcing, what can we provide some insights into the risks in your sourcing portfolio, looking at, do you have some products that you use a lot in many of your finished goods as a manufacturer that you need to be careful, products that you source from only one vendor and so on. I think there's a lot of things we can do to extract insights from the system that would give customers a better view of the risk they're exposed to with their current supply chain. I touched on warehousing. We really want to take that to the next level. We've seen some customers that actually leverage the fact that we are cloud solutions to create pop-up warehouses in a matter of days simply by shipping handheld devices, mobile routers, and so on and label printers to the place where they want to set up the warehouse, and then within, if it's all pre-configured, workers can actually start operating within a matter of days. And we really like to sort of take that to the next level and also look at what we can do to make the warehouse management subsystem as such easier to configure, to make it something that a business person can do, so you don't need to have IT knowledge or system knowledge to actually set it up. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but it's something I think that we need to do to cut down on implementation time and to make sure that we get good solid implementations that customers that make customers happy and efficient in their everyday work. I didn't touch so much about it in the beginning, but you may have noticed that when the overview of the functionality, there were two boxes called supply and demand planning and sales and operations planning. And it's basically because we are starting to invest more heavily in the strategic planning. For years, we have been excelling in tactical planning with our MRP engine and now with planning optimization. We want to take that to the next level and start addressing the needs of customers for more strategic planning. How can we take demand planning to the next level, make it more collaborative, integrated with supply planning, do scenarios, support the sales and operations planning process, maybe take it to even integrate business planning where we take into account financials as well. it's an area we haven't sort of firmed out our plans yet, but it's an area where we are going to invest and where we are ramping up and doing some work. So stay tuned for more information in this area. I'm pretty excited about what the opportunity we have there and the possibilities we have for really helping customers take their business to the next level. You may also seen or heard me mention pricing as something that we've been looking at. We have quite comprehensive pricing capabilities, but it's scattered a little bit. We have a fairly good pricing engine for our retail commerce part of the F&O application. We have some decent pricing agreement, trade agreement for pricing on the SCM side. But what we are seeing is that for customers that have very fluctuating prices and where you need to do a lot of campaigns and where rebates are, where it's highly competitive and so on, we are falling a little bit short. So we are working on making a pricing service, again, moving functionality out into microservices, but doing an attached service that can actually handle pricing in these environments and taking the best of what we have and interfacing to Dynamics 365, SCM, or in commerce. So again, stay tuned for more information in this area. It's something that will enter private preview this late summer, fall, early fall, I think, with a select couple of customers. And then depending on the feedback there, we will probably see a public preview either late this year or early next year. You have to grant me a little slack on timing there. But it's something that's coming. We are also discussing what we can do to improve in the indirect procurement area. It's an area where we see a lot of growth and where it's not that we can't handle indirect procurement, but there's still a lot of things that we could do better and a lot of things that customers are asking for that we could look into. So we are not as far ahead with this as we are with planning and warehouse management, but it's something that we are starting to investigate. And you may have noticed that Microsoft last year acquired a company called Supply, who does spend analytics. And we are looking at how we can also leverage that acquisition and integrate with that product and basically take procurement to the next level. So also very excited to see what we can do in this area and drive some new capabilities and see some new opportunities there. Automation is on everybody's mind. I mentioned the shortage of labor previously as something that has actually bubbled up to top of mind for most of our customers and being more a higher priority than injecting resilience in the supply chain. So we are continuing to expand our partnerships and also to look at what we can do to improve our capabilities in the automation space. I don't see us driving a lot of the automation capabilities directly in the ERP system, but this is more of a surround play where we will partner with various companies and also leverage some of the other assets that exist in Microsoft to help support companies in their automation journey. And you may have seen the recent announcement of the manufacturing cloud that we did earlier this year, and we are working very closely with that team as well to make sure that Dynamics fits directly into that manufacturing cloud, and also to look at how we can provide out-of-the-box integrations with those partners that are part of the manufacturing cloud. So again, an area that we are expecting a lot from, and where we are seeing good traction. And I also mentioned the whole warehouse automation. That's it's crazy, the growth that we are seeing there. So that's absolutely top of mind for us. And then last but not least, sustainability. It may have been paused a little bit due to the supply chain disruptions that followed the pandemic, and then the recent challenges caused by the war in Ukraine. But it's certainly something that is coming. It's certainly top of mind, or next to top of mind for a lot of companies. I mentioned that we have built the cloud for sustainability in Microsoft, and we are looking at how we can drive closer integration there, and also to not just measure this the footprint of sustainability footprint of a company, but also take that into account for planning purposes, to direct procurement decisions and all. So in that sense, it's all coming together, and it's something that you will see a lot more from us in the coming period. So I think I'm almost at time. So I think I'll just leave this slide open, and then thank you for staying on. I haven't been looking at the questions, but maybe I can just to look at. Let me just see. There was. Yeah, adding search release products by attributes and standard without retail. Yes, we know of that requirement. We haven't gotten to it yet, but it's absolutely valid. I can't remember if it's on Ideas Portal. Do go vote for it. I should say, I forgot to say that we will in the fall address the number 1 on Ideas Portal with translation of product information. That I'm happy to say that we finally got on the roadmap. So that is coming. Yes, there's also a question if reporting of project activities via production flow execution. We've been looking at it. It has very little use on our job card terminal. So we are a little bit in the holding pattern to assess how much is this really used by customers. So far, we've seen very little demand for this functionality. But again, please help us understand how big and how important that requirement is. The production flow execution, it is actually a rendering of the existing web client. So it is not a app that runs on a mobile device as such, but it is the layout is such that it will run fine on an iPad or an Android tablet and so on. You can license it via the device license, or you can just have work. I think as far as I remember, a production floor, a machine operator is only a team member license, so it's pretty cheap in that sense. So that was it. Markup in trade agreements. It's not. As far as I know, it's not on the table yet. but it's something that might come in the pricing service work. So haven't again. Make sure to vote on Ideas Portal if it's there. We are starting to take things from there based on input. And there was something about work order asset repair. I think I need, please share with me on the feedback on the asset repair. Not sure I fully understand that, but send it to me. I'll share my contact in a second. And yes, you can use the production flow interface for creating a maintenance request. You can use it for logging downtime. You can see asset counters there. And we are also working on, I can share with you here to see if we can make asset counter updates happen through IoT. So that's something that is also in the pipeline. What else can I share from our investment? I think this is, I talked about sourcing, I talked about the translation of products. We are continuing the investment in planning optimization, and then we're investing in warehouse, especially ease of implementation, and in planning. With pricing, we continue also some investment in the inventory visibility. And then, yeah, I think I hope this was an overview, a decent overview of what we are doing. So
definitely, Søren. I have to say, you really did go into detail and really showed some of the gaps which you're covering in these upcoming releases. So that's really helpful, and it's really helped answer some of our questions in relation to some of the issues and gaps that we've been feeling, and it's great to see that they're coming. So look, Søren, that's great, and I think we're at the end of the hour as well. So we really appreciate you taking out your time to share all this information with us today, and to keep us aligned with exactly what the roadmap looks like. So, Søren, before you go, are there any final comments you'd like to make?
Not really. I mean, I really appreciate so many people showing up here and listening to what I had to say. I hope it was valuable for everyone, and I would really encourage you to look at some of these smaller features that may be hidden, but that actually deliver some really good improvements in productivity, and I hope that it will be beneficial for you and your customers. So, and I'll paste the link to the video of the X++ feature, which I know I'm responsible for the functionality, but I can't help to get excited when I see some cool development stuff. So
definitely. Thank you so much, Søren, for sharing that. Excellent. Well, there you go. We had the pleasure of Søren joining us today, a huge legend in the Microsoft product team, and it was great to hear him directly. So that was Søren. Thank you so much, Søren, for joining us today from your Easter break. Okay. So we have another special guest today.